This is the homework quiz for week number 16, and this is question number 5, which asked if 80% of the middle school students at Camino Nuevo pass their weekly homework quiz. If the school has 170 students, how many passed the quiz? This was a question that a lot of students struggled with, had some difficulties with this week. And I'm going to show two different ways to be able to solve it. And I'm going to break it into two different videos because I want to be able to make sure the video is not too long. The first way I want to show that we can solve this is using this percent ruler here, which can be a useful strategy. Here we can see it has two different marks over here. At the top, it's divided into percents. So from 0%, 0 students, all the way up here to 100%, which is all of the students. And at the bottom, this is the actual number of students, 0 students here. And the total number of students that we know from the question is 170 students. So that is 100% of the students is 170 actual people. How do we use this 100% ruler that we have been introduced to in CPM within the last week? Well, one of the things that we can look at is 50% is half of the students. So we could divide 170 divided by 2, and that gives us 85, or 50% of the students. So we can see that 1/2 of 170 gives us 85. But what about these other marks over here? This is divided into tenths, or 10%, 20%, 30%, etc. How do we find 10%? Well, to find that, we take 170, the full amount, and divide it by 10. Now, we can look and see that there are different ways to write division problems that we've been talking about actually in a couple of the videos here this week. If we do that, we can see that we can simplify this problem to be solved by crossing out some zeros. 170 divided by 10 is the same thing as 17 divided by 10. Just as in this final fraction over here, 170 divided by 10, we can simplify that by crossing out the zeros by dividing it by 10. So what we actually have is 17 divided by 1. That makes this a pretty easy problem to solve. What we're doing over here, if we take 170 and divide it by 10, we're taking and moving the decimal place one place to the left to make it a smaller number. Okay, so that's 17. If we take 170 and we divide it by 10, we have 17. That's 1/10 of 170. That is 10%, is 17 students. Now we can go ahead. That's our interval over here. Our interval is going to be from 0% to 10%. This 1/10 is going to be 17. So we can add 17 all the way along this line to complete this percent ruler. 17 plus 17 is 34, plus 17 is 51, plus 17 would be 68, and then plus 17 is 85, 102, 119, 136, 153, and then 170. So we've completed this ruler. Next, we could take and find the different intervals. That's 10, 20%, 30%, 40%, 50%, 60, 70, 80%. That's what we were asked to find. If 80% of the middle school students at Camino Nuevo passed their weekly homework quiz, how many students passed the quiz? 136. Now, an easier way that you could use to solve this, you may say, okay, let me figure out what 10% is of 170. I can use the percent ruler for that. But you don't necessarily have to fill in 20% and 30%, 40%, 60, 70, or 90%. What you wanted to find is 80%. So if you find out what 1/10 of 170 is, then you could multiply that by 8 and figure out what that 80% is. And that's still going to give you 136. That's the answer for this first question. And over here, I shifted over by accident to this piece over here. But this is the proportion table that we're going to be using in the second video so that we can see how to solve this problem using cross multiplication, which is another strategy that we don't have to go ahead and draw a 100% ruler each time we want to be able to solve a problem. We can use proportion as well in cross multiplication. That's in the second video for question number 5. When you watch the 2 videos, you can go ahead and look at the practice problem for week number 16, question number 5.